Donald Trump had a pretty bad week, to say the least. Somehow he managed to piss off every single person who voted for him. And at the same time, he managed to piss off two of the most powerful people in the world, Xi Jinping, the supreme premier leader of China, and also Putin, the leader of Russia. So to say that Donald Trump has been led astray, to say that Donald Trump has been lied to and manipulated, well, why don't we just say that's an understatement of Trumponian proportions? How did it happen? How did Donald Trump go so far off track? How did he lose his base in 1 week and break international law? Who was it that convinced him to do an illegal strike on Syria? You know when your enemies like Hillary Clinton and John McCain and Lindsey Graham, you know when your enemies are cheering you on and patting you on the back, you know you screwed up. I can see Donald Trump's enemies right now laughing behind his back. Wow, we really got him this time. He did an illegal strike on Syria because he thinks he's a dictator. He breaks international law. He manages to piss off two of the most powerful people in the world, the leader of China and the leader of Russia. Wow, Donald Trump, when he knows how to screw up, he really knows how to screw up. Like I said, we're talking about Trumponian proportions here. How did it happen, really? I mean, here we are 2 days after the strike. The Chinese leader is going home, and now you'll hear the truth from the Chinese press. You'll hear the truth about how he was humiliated. You talk about a huge loss of face for the Chinese leader. If you know anything about the Chinese people, the worst thing that can happen to the Chinese people is a loss of face. I mean, when they live in their nice communities, they have to have a car just as good as the neighbors, a Mercedes. They have to work as hard as the next Chinese person. They really are very smart, clever people who try to make the best out of life. And when they lose face, that's an extremely bad thing in the Chinese culture. Can you imagine, as soon as the Chinese leader steps on to Mar-a-Lago, he just gets to Florida, he's about ready to have dinner with Donald Trump and his family for the first time. Oh, by the way, we just attacked your friend Syria with, Tomahawk missiles. This is a monumental slap in the face. Oh, I know, the Chinese are very good at saving face. Even though this went down, the Chinese are very, very good at saving face. They'll smile and they'll shake their head. Yes, everything will look good on the surface until they get home. Who led Donald Trump down this not only criminal, illegal path of attacking a sovereign country, but at the same time he does an illegal act against international law? He managed to lose every one of his supporters at the same time because his supporters are nationalists. And if you attack a foreign country for Israel, that makes you a globalist. I mean, how did it happen? Let's talk about nepotism for a little bit, because I think the whole thing revolves around nepotism. If you understand nepotism, I think we'll understand how Donald Trump went so far wrong. Here we are 2 days after the globalist, Zionist attack, and we're going to dive into nepotism because I know for a fact that's what it's about. Donald Trump got very, very unlucky when his daughter fell in love with the Antichrist. I mean, I guess you just call that bad luck. But when the Antichrist is in your family, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, this is bad. Trust me, this is really bad. But let's leave the Antichrist out of the picture for just a moment. we're going to talk about nepotism here. No one, and I mean no one, can manipulate you better than your family member. I mean, that's why family members fight so hard and viciously with each other, because they care for each other so much. There's so much emotion there. There's so much passion. Because of that passion and love, no one can manipulate you better than a family member. That's why there are laws against nepotism in most honest governments. I mean, if one even exists. I mean, talk about oxymoron there. It doesn't matter. In government, in honest, true governments, if there is one, nepotism is illegal for just common sense reasons. I mean, could you imagine the great leader, Alexander the Great, or Napoleon, or even Caesar himself, trying to do business in the Roman Senate? And then while he's trying to do business, serious business, life or death business, you have to hear your little whining, crying, hysterical baby girl wailing about who knows what. Oh, the little babies. Oh, the little babies. I mean, the woman was crying. I hear Ivanka was crying like a baby, like a little girl. Oh, daddy, the babies, daddy, the babies. I mean, was it an act? I mean, you don't know about girls and women. That's why great leaders don't bring their children into the process of governing, making important life or death decisions, because you're trying to make a fair, honest decision that could affect somebody's living or dying, and you got your little baby girl crying in your ear. I mean, come on, this is common sense. This is why there are laws against nepotism. Oh, I know, I'm sorry. It's not nepotism because she's not getting paid. Give me a break, it's a bunch of bullshit. If you're in the White House and you're telling the president what to do, if you're whining like a little baby, oh, daddy, the babies, daddy, which is it's all a lie. It's a false flag. Every bit of it was a lie made up by her husband's people. But she's bought into it. That's what's so bad about women, when they fall in love with a man and they drink the Kool-Aid. Come on, how many moms and sisters and aunts do you know? Their husband and their family can do no wrong. They buy into the Kool-Aid. And then the Antichrist. The Antichrist can manipulate her, manipulate Donald. The Antichrist has Donald Trump, the President of the United States, in the palm of his hand. Imagine the most powerful empire in the world, that the world has ever seen, and Satan himself, the Antichrist himself, has the leader of the United States of America in the palm of his hand to tell the president, yes, do it. 66 Tomahawk missiles, push the button, Trump. Push the button, father-in-law, because I am the Antichrist. This is serious business here, isn't it? But you know what I find even more alarming than nepotism? What I find even more striking is after this all went down on April 6th, the same day that the United States of America actually entered World War I. Did they actually pick that day on purpose? Did the Antichrist himself pick April 6th, knowing that if we strike Syria and piss off Russia, that we could actually initiate World War III? Did they pick that day on purpose? Let's forget about that for a second. Forget about that fact that the Antichrist plays with numbers. What I really find striking and alarming is that most Americans don't even know who this guy is. Most Americans don't even realize that the President of the United States has a son-in-law who many people consider the Antichrist. He owns a building in New York where the address of the building is 666. Most Americans don't even realize that these Zionists play with numbers. They play with our mind. They have been manipulating us for over 100 years. I do not believe it was a coincidence that 100 years to the date, 100 years after we entered World War I, on April 6th, 1917, 100 years to the date, the Antichrist tells the President of the United States, go ahead and do it. Send those 66 Tomahawks over there, and I'll be damned if Russia's there. I don't give a shit about Russia. I don't give a shit about Russia because I am the Antichrist. Nobody can defeat me. Is this amnesia? Has the whole damn world gone into amnesia and we have forgotten that Russia has over 1,000 nuclear warheads that could destroy the earth? Russia alone, not counting America, Russia alone has enough nuclear warheads to destroy the earth. But why would the Antichrist care about that? And I do hear some people say, oh, you're mistaken. There's no way that Jared Kushner could be the Antichrist because he's Jewish. Can't be done, can't happen. Why would he hurt his own people? Let me ask you this. He's probably sorry that he bought this building here. Buying the 666 building, probably the worst thing he ever did. But I said that nobody in America even knew who this kid was. The majority of Americans do not even know that our country's been taken over by Israel. Tell me, after this fiasco that Donald Trump has gotten himself into, how many more Americans have woken up to the fact that our country has been taken over by Israel, that we actually have a 30-year-old Antichrist in the White House, pushing buttons, creating World War III? How many Americans knew that this was even going on? No. Imagine the millions and millions and millions of Americans who just woke up to the fact that Donald Trump is controlled by the Zionists, that his own son-in-law is the Antichrist. And the reason why I say he possibly could be the Antichrist is because he's done immense damage to his own people. See, before Jared Kushner came onto the scene, America was oblivious. America had no idea that our government had been taken over. What a great deal it was for BB. I can tell you for a fact that the two greatest mistakes that the Zionists have made in the last 10 years, the two greatest mistakes they've made is when Bibi walked into Congress and he got 47 standing ovations and all the congressmen got on their hands and knees and bowed down to Bibi, the great Caesar. They had no idea how that was going to backfire. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two is when Jared Kushner, the Antichrist, came into the White House and told Donald Trump to push the buttons. Americans started to say, what? I had no idea. So yes, Jared Kushner has done his people a big, big disservice because their scam was going so smoothly. The Zionist scam where they controlled all of Congress. And Bibi could walk into Congress and they would literally get on their hands and knees and bow down to Bibi. That was mistake number one. And now Americans see that Jared Kushner is in control of the White House. Americans are going to get angry. Trust me. I'm not stupid. I happen to have lived in America for 55 years. You don't think I know my own country? That's what amazes me about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has lived in this country longer than I have. Maybe he's been doing too many summers in Europe and he doesn't know how to read his own people. You see, I know how to read my people. And I know my people had no idea about Bibi in Congress. And I know my people had no idea about Jared Kushner, the Antichrist. I know my people have been asleep. But they're starting to wake up. And for that fact alone, we can thank Jared Kushner. The nationalists, the true blue Americans who care about America, we can thank Jared Kushner because he woke up millions and millions of Americans this week. And maybe that was Donald Trump's plan to begin with. Maybe Donald Trump is just a goddamn genius. That he knew that the Americans were going to wake up when they saw that Jared Kushner was in control of the White House. Well, I doubt that very much. I think that Donald Trump has done too many summers in Europe, and he doesn't know how to read his people correctly. And for that, he lost his entire base on April 6th, 2017, when he tried to throw America into World War III.